All right, Zombie Grub, you want to start this introduction off for me?
All right. In the bottom position, as the yellow Zerg, it is going to be Roots Petraeus.
And his opponent on the same team, sadly, it is the Red Protoss, known as State. And I believe State is still in Korea, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
So this will be an interesting match. It's, of course, on the North American server, so it's pretty good in that regard. Big shout out to Guns370, just subbed. He's number 38. You guys are on a roll here today. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how this is going to go, if these guys have had any time to practice, because of course, with State having gone to Korea, he's played in a lot of the events over there. He hasn't really been in the team house with Petraeus. He might not have actually had any time to talk to him, much less practice with him yet.
Well, I still can't get over this fact that Petraeus...
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about this for a second. This is really important, guys. So if you haven't been following the brackets, first off, type exclamation mark brackets in chat so you can see what's going on here. And you'll see that Petraeus just took on Violet in a big way and sent him to the losers bracket, advancing here in the winners bracket. So this is, of course, the quarterfinal match. This is the round 2 match, I guess, if you want to look at it through that way. But either way, a really strong start for our young New Zealand player.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's not even that, like, I guess some people are gonna try and be like, well, you know, we don't know what Violet's like, you know, what his play is like, but he streamed and he's, you know, has the screenshots or whatever. He was like rank 1 GM for a very long time. He is actually not very rusty, and I believe he also qualified for WSSNA. I'm like 99% sure. So, I mean, you could maybe argue that Violet is, you know, maybe not tournament, like, he's not used to tournaments again, maybe, but that this is... Petraeus.
You say that as a bit of a hesitant thing, but that's actually very true. You guys got to remember, Violet was, you know, he's kind of taken away from the scene forcibly for a long time, right? Like, making a re-emergence and still kicking ass while doing it. I don't know. It's interesting to say the least, and noteworthy. We'll see how this goes, though. PvZ is a fun matchup, I think, no matter how this gets played out. Of course, one of the favorite ways, you know, it wasn't exactly the most dynamic games, but Puck versus Bly was a lot of fun to cast the other day, where it was just like Mutalisk Corruptor versus Phoenix and Void Rays and Nidus Worms and other crazy things happening. I don't think we're going to get to see that out of these two players. Petraeus is, how do I phrase this? He's a very intelligent, but also a very standard Zerg player. At least I've had the pleasure of casting him several times for C events. Of course, coming from New Zealand, he wasn't really able to play in too many North American events, but living here now, hopefully we'll get to see him in more and more in the future. Staying at the Root House, too, he's got some pretty good people to train with.
Yeah, actually, I've heard that the Root House is getting, you know, really good training nowadays. So that's that could bode well for everyone. I believe also Cats made it through the qualifiers, so obviously it's their practice is actually starting to show in terms of tournament results.
Yeah. Small little nod to Iron Key 1. Also subscribed recently. Thank you very much for your support, man. This again, these subscribers from January, guys. If we get 50, we're going towards a very special show match. But focus, of course, is here. We're in the IEM qualifiers for Cologne, and looks like a Ling will get taken out by this mothership. In fact, 2 Lings will get taken out by that mothership core. So Petraeus not going to quite get the scouting information he wanted to. Overlord is, of course, ready and poised to suicide in whenever necessary.
Yeah, this time he has 2, by the way. Zing Zing, for some reason, only ever used 1 Overlord for suicide, I believe. But if Petraeus, and he probably will, chooses to go ahead and suicide in and get good scouting, he will most definitely scout it.
Oh god, well, I made a huge mistake. I
what?
told the chat to put exclamation mark brackets. Our chat is getting flooded out at this point like a bad meme. It's like watching people spam Frankers or Kappa. Of course, now I regret saying that too, because I'm sure that's what's going to follow suit. But
yeah,
State trying to get 2 pylons in. One's going to have to get canceled. Second one will also be revealed, and Petraeus is on top of this. Like, you know, he lost the scouting links early, but even then, he was still able to see this coming. Cancels both pylons, kills the probe, and while counterattack's not really going to be the biggest threats, yeah, Zealous even warped in outside that hole, much less the sentry. You know, he stops the push.
Mm-hmm. He saw those 3 gateways very early on, so he knew to get an earlier roach warn in case things did go badly. But the Lings, of course, catching all the pylons, that stops a Protoss attack, you know, straight off. So, State, I was going to say Stutray or something. That's not a word.
Try and combine all the names.
Yeah, State's trying to get a warp prism now, and I do like. I always I kind of forgotten, but I really like State's PVT. I don't know much about his PVZ, but when I watched his PVT, I was like, man, this kid is great because he always
Well,
included the War Prism.
I was gonna try and hold this tidbit for game number 2, but I'll drop it right now. If you guys didn't see, State almost like destroyed Scarlet in the Red Bull qualifiers. The last time he played in IEM, he performed pretty well. I mean, his PVZ is good. Bottom line.
I do remember that actually. Yeah, isn't that the game where she made 3 infestation pits?
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
I was casting that with Doom. If you guys didn't see, we actually put that VOD on our YouTube channel. It's called When Hotkeys Fail. Scarlet, of course, playing really well, but ended up building 3 infestation pits instead of an Ultralisk Cavern. A little bit sad to see, but State, though, a good player, PvZ, for sure, for sure. There's some players who have, like, confidence in these matchups. If I were to ask him, I don't know if he would say that his PvZ is his best matchup, but from the times I've cast him, he's always performed incredibly well. Now, with the Forge coming up incredibly late like this, it's going to allow upgrades to finally get going. I was kind of worried he'd keep playing this game upgrade-less. You do see some players, like a lot of the Samsung boys, like Trend, for example, love to play with just a lot of gateway aggression and no upgrades. But War Prism in the main going to keep those units out of the main. He can keep Force Fielding off indefinitely if he gets 2 more sentries in here. But, has to be careful not to lose these, of course. We're trying to focus them down, but now on the Zealots. Burrow out of the Petraeus, though, not only going to save these roaches, but heal them up full. And, of course, in a worst-case scenario, you can go for those tunneling claws to get through those force fields.
There was also an attack at the third. I don't think he did too much damage. Yeah, in total, 3 drones were killed by
Look at the roach
State,
micro,
so not
though.
a whole lot.
Petraeus is not losing any of these roaches. He's burrowing them, he's healing them up. He is on the ball with his control, even though he split his attention between 2 different bases.
That was, I would say a perfect defense. I mean, I don't really want to use the word perfect, but that was damn good from Petraeus right there. And State, I've seen State use War Prisms before. His War Prisms, like, I mean, that may actually be the problem, though, isn't it? Like, maybe that Petraeus was expecting it, so he was, actually worked against State.
Alright, well, Tunneling Claws is on the way, and I'm sorry I'm trying to giggle because I have seen our chat. I've just decided to stop commenting on it because all I do is influence it poorly. Roaches will just barely escape those force fields. Again, Tunneling Claws is such a big deal. If you guys haven't seen it, there's kind of the cool shark attacks. We saw Vibuse versus Noni. There's also very finesse things that involve sneaking around the map, trying to get to your opponent's mineral lines, as there's very rarely cannons when you don't have that initial Forge expansion. So, burrowed roaches could slip right through this hole, get a couple into the main, get a couple into the natural, leave them waiting for a big fight, and then when State's not paying attention, unburrow and just rack up the probe kills.
A little surprising that State hasn't considered this, knowing that Burrow is out. To put a cannon at his natural wall and in his main, but he will learn soon enough as Tunneling Claws is on its way. So is an Infestation Pit. Petraeus is going to try and still find some holes. So far, he's been very good at baiting out force fields and having no damage done whatsoever to his roaches. As we see here, unfortunately, the Observer is not quite there.
I know, I mean, look at the actual units lost right now, guys. 3 roaches have died, period. From a massive warp and from several attacks. Petraeus with his control is just on the ball with this. Like, it is too good. And Tunneling Claws is finishing up just now, so not only are the roaches going to heal faster, they can now move while burrowed. And as
State
we see,
has to get 2 Observers, though this one's going to pop out, just in time.
But even with the warp,
that doesn't work.
Photon Overcharge. Oh my god, do these out-heal the Photon Overcharge? Is that how good Roach Heal is? I'm going to try and kite this down a little bit. But again, I mean, this is the cool tactics that's expected out of Petraeus. He does this sort of stuff a lot of the times in C events, and now bring them here to North America, perhaps catching State a little off guard. But I say perhaps, because you know what? Burrowed roaches are a lot more common in Korea right now than they are in, like, say, Europe or North America. And State living and training in Korea. So, against any other Protoss player, these tactics probably would have driven them crazy. But Petraeus, he's handling this well. He's going to escape with the roaches, a majority of them at least. But he's not killing State off by any means. The State's on 3 bases happily mining. He's in no real danger.
Yeah. Petraeus is going to go for a Swarm Host transition. I was wondering what his plan was, as, generally you see like a Hydrostin at some point or even a Spire transition, but Infestation Pit into Swarm Host was his choice. Oddly enough, I don't see the Swarm Host on this map as much.
It's because there's no, like, real easy mode place to put them. Like, you can put them here by the Watchtower, and they can kind of reach towards the 3rd, but they can't go all the way to the natural, even with Enduring Locust, which is what makes it a bit problematic to use. But one thing Swarmers are good against is gateway units. There's no Colossus out yet, there's no Storm, there's no Area of Effect. But with this many Stalkers that already have Blink, I kind of fear that Petraeus may... Well, actually, you know what? Any other Zerg player might be in trouble.
Oh, counterattack. A huge Roach counterattack, actually. A lot of probes going down right here.
Yeah, not to underplay this by any means. He's lost quite a few workers, but not a devastating amount just yet. The problem is State doesn't have anything at home to clean this up. He's trying to get those new gateways that freshly warped in to transform so he can try and get something done, but the Locust going to chase the army in the middle of the map. Blink Stalkers will respond and clean this up. Loses the Robo, though. What's really key about that, if you guys will notice, there's no Robotics Bay down yet. So Colossus production can't even get started once a new one gets made. A counterattack to the third, still going while this is happening. On hold position are these links to get some of these kills. Illusion, or sorry, not Illusion, State rather. Sorry, we just finished casting Illusion. State has lost quite a few workers while this is going on. Force field is being done, but one thing I was talking about before this happened was Petraeus. Look at this. He's probably going to unburrow movie Swarm Host again in a moment's time. Like, he is not leaving these to be that set 'em and forget 'em style. Small Warp Prism here in the main with a couple Zealots, not getting a whole lot done, but the potential is there, and yeah, repositioning the Swarm Host almost immediately. Love the way Petraeus is handling this.
17 probes have been killed by Petraeus. I mean, that was quite a few roaches, but at this point he's more relying on Swarm Host anyway, so that, you know, he wasn't really too worried about that. The Locust will go ahead and intercept State's little push right here. He's going to maybe try and target the hatchery. I think he should. Maybe a little too late, as he will lose his Immortals because of it.
Losing the Sentries, losing the Immortals is going to be devastating. But, you know, did State draw enough attention away? He's picking off a lot of the Swarm Hosts with these Blink Stalkers. Observer is here to finish them off, and the Roaches will push this back, but the base still stands, and another attack being assaulted here towards with some Swarm Hosts, the natural base of State. You know, Petraeus, it's the multitasking that's coming out so well here. It's not the Swarm Hosts, it's not the Roaches, it's not the Tunneling Claws, but it's all of those things combined under the control of this young kid from New Zealand. He's handling it so well this game.
These guys are playing really well against each other. I mean, State's, you know, he's in a little bit of a tougher position right now, but seriously, these guys have been just matching blow for blow until just recently, and it's really refreshing to see a PvZ where it isn't Colossus versus Swarm Host. You know, you wait 20 minutes and then it's a big battle. He's actually splitting up his Swarm Host. State's trying to, you know,
he's being mobile with them, which is insane. You don't see people do that.
Exactly. It's so refreshing. Unfortunately, I think it is going to work in favor of Petraeus. Unfortunately for him, rather. State's having just a little bit too much trouble, and of course he's in that Robo, so I mean, yeah, he could dance around the Swarm Host all day long, but eventually you do have to attack them.
His best bet would have been maybe going towards the main with those Stalkers with that War Prism combined and try to take out the tech of Petraeus, but I mean, realistically here, the assault has just been really aggressive. He's cleaned up a couple of the Swarm Hosts now. Blink Stalkers, though, are dwindling, and there's no further tech. Plus 3 weapons on the way, fantastic, but there's no Colossus to pair that with. There's no more Immortals out on the map. It's Blink Stalkers versus Roaches, Zerglings, and Swarm Hosts.
And he just lost most of his Blink Stalkers, so that doesn't bode well for State whatsoever. Trying to work some High Templars, I guess. I mean, Archons.
Well, Storm's not bad for counter-pushing into Locust Wave. They don't have a lot of health, but the problem is, yeah, he doesn't have a lot, he doesn't have enough, and there's no buffer for it. If the Blink Stalkers are still alive, you know, you storm down that wave of Locusts, you blink forward, you take out the Swarm Host, no more Locusts. The problem is there's no Blink Stalkers anymore. This is, I don't know, this was not the game I was expecting to see on Polar Night, but I'm really glad that it's happening either way. Petraeus, on the other hand, you know, he's got 4 bases, he's not looking to take that 5th, he's just funneling into units right now. With, the worker lead's kind of even up now, but, I don't know, I just feel like he's causing a little too much damage here.
It is surprising that Petraeus is not maxed out at this point, as, you know, maybe if any other player or if State was, I don't know. It's surprising he's at 200, I guess, because it's the Swarm Host, maxed out versus maxed out.
Yeah. Looks like a base is finally going to go down there. That was a little bit for Petraeus. You know, it's blow for blow, like you said, army value for army value, but no real economic damage has been dealt. A couple of probes have died on top of the initial harass early on, but with this Nexus finally going down, that's going to be one devastating blow to State, and I don't know if he can recover off this. In fact, I don't think he can recover off this. He was barely keeping up with his army supply before, now he's got even less economy coming in. A couple more Blink Stalkers are going to go down. Good game is going to be called, and Petraeus, guys! Petraeus will take game number 1.
Very, very cool play from that guy, man. I don't know if that was always his plan, was to work like that with Swarm Hosts, but if that's how you just Swarm Host, then I don't mind. Like, you know, usually when I see Swarm Hosts on the page, I'm like, oh no, this is going to become like 30 minutes for Colossus versus wave after wave of Locusts, and that's a little, you know, it gets kind of old after a while, but not with Petraeus, and that is great.
All right, well, if he's still tuning in, I want you to know we love you, man. I saw good old Grim subscribe. He was subscriber number 40, but that game got really intense really quickly, and we couldn't find any breaks to give you some love, man. But I do appreciate your sub. Thank you very much. Of course, to all our new subs, we did just recently send out our replay pack not too long ago, so if you would like access to that replay pack, do PM me here on Twitch. Just say a message saying, like, send me the replay pack or something, and we'll get it out to you ASAP.